it's not been as easy by any means as I thought it would be. I mean, writing picture books is really an art and a science because of the compactness of the language. So it was a real education. And at the same time, I started writing my first novel for adults, so I go back and forth and do both. And it's what feeds my soul. I mean, there's something about getting into that space that you're not in your ordinary life, and letting something come through you that, just feels like where it's at. You get to let your imagination sort of run wild, and you don't have, any great theme that you have to illustrate, although I do find that my work tends to follow somehow a theme that you're not even aware of. My gosh, I mean, if you're a writer and, you're looking for subject matter, here it is. It's everywhere here because it's so unique here. And Alligator Sue is a hurricane story, and people are often assuming that I wrote it after the hurricanes of 2005. But, if you're looking for a conflict to go in a story, well, hurricanes are a natural in Louisiana. So it had actually come out a year or so before that, and of course that means I had written it several years earlier. Alligator Sue was actually inspired by a little children's song. I think it's a Sam Morgan melody that my husband Michael and our friend Gerard Dole in Paris put words to a long time ago, and it was called Sue, oh Sue, banya pas dans le bayou. It's like a song about a girl named Sue. Don't swim in the bayou because the alligator's going to eat you up. So there I had the idea for a girl named Sue and an alligator. And then she sort of took a life of her own from there. She's a little girl who gets blown away by a hurricane and lands in an alligator nest and gets raised by a mama alligator, Mama Coco. And so she tries really hard to be a good alligator because she forgets finally that she's a girl, but then she has all these issues, with being an alligator, and she doesn't fit in there. And so finally, Mama Coco tells her, well, you're not really an alligator, you're a girl, so she has to go off and figure out that side of herself. And then in the end, she has to come put the two sides together. Alligator Sue. You mean to tell me you never heard of Alligator Sue, who was half gator and half girl? They say the girl came from her mama and her daddy, and the alligator, well, that's a story you just got to hear. Once upon a long ago time, on a houseboat deep in Louisiana's Atchafalaya swamp lived an ordinary girl named Suzanne Marie Sabine Chico Thibodeau. Her mama and daddy called her Sue for short. One lazy summer afternoon, the Atchafalaya air grew heavier than a catfish's bath towel and hot enough to melt the wax in your ears. At the cook stove, Sue's mama stirred a muskrat gumbo. Her daddy was playing Sue's favorite double-time tune on his accordion and crooning in a voice as rich as pecan pralines. And Sue, she was two-stepping and toe-tapping around the deck of the houseboat, singing at the top of her rackety voice, "Oh, yeah, mon cœur fait mal," French for, "Oh, dear, my heart is aching." You see, every one of her daddy's Cajun songs had to do with a broken heart. When the last accordion note finished quivering through the swamp, Sue's daddy held up a finger and sniffed. "Pressure's dropping," he said. "A storm's a-comin', I guarantee." At that very moment, a hurricane reached down its gusty fingers and whooshed Sue high into the angry sky. Before she could say, "Oh, yeah," she was spinning higher than the tallest cypress tree, with the houseboat disappearing far below. Sue tossed and tumbled as the storm seethed and swirled. At last it dropped her like a hot patat right into the arms of an ancient live oak tree. There, croaking out her favorite song for courage, Sue curled up and shivered through that long and stormy night. When morning peeked in on her, the hurricane was long gone, and the sun rose hotter than a cayenne pepper. I in the sweet marsh grass far below, Sue took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and made a jump for it. When her eyeballs popped open, Sue's heart nearly stopped. There she was in a gator nest, nose to snout, with a queen-sized, prickly-backed, saw-toothed mama alligator. Sue's knees started knocking and her teeth started clacking. The alligator advanced, Sue crawfished, the gator shuffled forward. This swampy tango went on until Sue could feel that reptile's fishy breath on her cheek. "Aw," said Sue finally, "go on and eat me," and she fainted dead away. That mama gator snuffled up to Sue. "Poor puny little thing," she crooned, tucking some Spanish moss over her, and with a crooked grin she set to singing Sue an alligator lullaby. From that day on, Mama Coco adopted Sue as one of her own. When the nest full of eggs had busted open and all the bulgy-eyed, stripy little gators had wiggled out, Sue found herself in a foster family with 17 brothers and 13 sisters. Before long, her daddy's song faded in the back room of her memory, and Sue forgot to remember the days when she'd been a girl. Home came to mean a cozy den in the ancient mud of the great swamp and the comforting grunts of the alligator clan. Mama Coco set to teaching her children the ways of the alligator. Sue learned to waddle on all fours and to talk in snorts and hisses with her favorite brother Chomp. She snatched at dragonflies, crunched on crawfish, and floated on her belly with her eyes barely peeking out of the water. Sue worked hard to learn Mama Coco's lessons, but it didn't come easy. While her brothers and sisters could steer themselves through the water with their powerful notched tails, Sue's hind end just ended. Her fingers and toes weren't webbed for swimming, and her teeth never did get long and pointy like theirs. Chomp and the others teased her from sun up to sundown, but Mama Coco would always say, "Y'all leave Sue alone. She is what she is." During the warm months, Chomp spent his time floating as still as a fallen log till some food came by and presented itself for supper. Sue would do her best to make like a log until a whiny mosquito bit into her bony, sunburnt shoulder. "Be still," Chomp would hiss, "or else we'll never catch nothing." Sue tried her best, but she couldn't help noticing that Chomp didn't have any ears for a mosquito to whine in, and his skin was so thick that no piddling little insect ever pestered him. When winter blew its cold breath through the swamp, Mama Coco, Chomp, and the others tucked themselves into their cozy den to nap and wait for spring. But Sue couldn't sleep that long and would stay awake shivering and listening to her stomach growl. Come spring, as the alligators grew faster than swamp grass, Chomp began to practice his newfound bellow. He would raise his tail, swell himself up, and let out a gronk that shook the leaves off the trees. "Let's hear you beat that," said Chomp one warm morning. Sue pulled in a breath, raised up her fanny, and gave it her best shot. Wonk! The sound was so puny that Chomp and the others nearly drowned themselves laughing. Red-faced and mad as a fire ant, Sue turned the tail she didn't have and swam away.
Louisiana Book Talks is produced in cooperation with the Center for the Book in the State Library of Louisiana, and made possible in part by grants from the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities and the E.J. and Marjorie B. Orso Family Foundation.